Hello, everyone. Oh my god, that was just not even close to my face. Hold on. What is going on with my mic right now? Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the New York Empoleon's Week 7 team builder of the CGT. We are here in the final third of the season, and we aren't getting the results we want. It's, obviously the last one hurts. If you didn't see my comment on the video, obviously I was wrong. It was super luck on the Togekiss, so there was a 12.5% chance that I lost instead of a 4.17% chance that I lost. I don't know. Still upset about, everything that happened. But shouldn't put myself in a position where hacks can cause losses. So that's what we're going to try to do this time. Mitigate all possible hacks to the best of our ability. That's not a thing that I can just, do. I can't just be like, hacks don't matter, but I can try my best to make sure they don't impact the game to the best of my ability. Now, this week we are taking on Sven, coach of the Uppsala Umbreons. If you have not checked him out, I don't know how you haven't checked him out at this point. Go do it. Links in the description below. He's the one who ruined my undefeated possible season in the PBAL. Become champion. Congratulations to him there. Then, of course, we played in PAC, which is a league that he ran in the regular season. We didn't face in playoffs. And I did manage to pick that victory up. So this is the rubber match. This is game 3 of our little series throughout Generation 8, recently in Generation 8 in very high-level leagues. And he's a phenomenal coach, phenomenal battler, and you should definitely go check him out, as you should all the other coaches. Links are in the description below. I have to say it every time because some of you don't actually click on them, but go click on them because they're all really cool people. Anyway, he's struggling in this season too, just like I am. And I was looking at my results the other day, and I have a 6-0 loss. We don't have to talk about that one. That was bad. That was obviously bad. But I have a 6-0 loss. And then I have a 1-0 loss, another 1-0 loss, and a 3-3 loss by timer. So it's not like we are not playing at the level of this competition. The results aren't falling our way yet. But hey, if I can pick up a win here, get ourselves back to 3 and 4, top 8 make playoffs, only 14 coaches, that's more than half. So we just got to put ourselves in that position, and we are certainly not out of it yet. So let's not back down. Let's keep fighting for this playoff spot and see what we can do. My opponent's team is Gengar, Thundurus T, Rillaboom, Claydol, Slurpuff, Poliwrath, Beware, Druddigon, Guzzlord, Melmetal, Reuniclus, and Colossal. And the first... Man, this was a hard match to prep for. The first thing you should notice is that first mon I said, Gengar, is terrifying. I have very little for it. I've had very little in terms of ghost type switch-ins the entire season. I picked up the Heliolisk, which sort of helps, but Gengar is so strong that it's just hard to switch into in general. And it's fast enough that it's just generally a huge nuisance for my roster. That's the biggest threat, but certainly not the only threat that my opponent has. And the problem is, I went through a few different iterations of this team. I went through a Trick Room iteration that I was thinking about. I went through a more bulky, reactive iteration. But what I decided to do was go with the most proactive build I've had all season. I want to be putting my opponent in uncomfortable positions. I want to be fighting for my spot and my position, and not giving my opponent the ability to dictate the position on the battlefield, and then I have to react. I need my opponent to react, and I need to know what he's going to do. I need to be in his head and be ready to go with the style of battle that he wants to play. And I've played him a couple times now, and we've each gotten the best of each other once. So we'll see what happens with this one, but the first mon here is my Galarian Zapdos, coming in this week with the U-turn, close combat, Brave Bird, and Throat Chop. The dual stabs are incredibly spammable this week. The resists to fighting certainly don't resist flying, and Gengar doesn't like taking a Throat Chop. Thundurus T is the one thing that can sort of handle this, but I can just U-turn off that, not a big deal. Rillaboom doesn't take a Brave Bird at all. Claydol doesn't want to take a Throat Chop or a U-turn. Slurpuff doesn't appreciate Brave Bird. So there's so many options I have, but primarily I'm going to be spamming U-turn. Now this isn't Scarfed. I thought about it. Scarf would be really nice to outspeed the Gengar and the Thundurus, but it's not necessary. And what I decided to do was go with Assault Vest so I could come in on the Gengar in a pinch and be able to take a hit surprise out of nowhere, maybe KO it back where he's not ready for it. Especially if I don't go into it in a way that looks like I am Scarfed. He might be more incentivized to stay in with his Gengar, maybe even try to click Thunderbolt. I live that, and then be able to Throat Chop, kill that back. Next up, we've got the Decidueye this week, making its first appearance on the roster. I am super excited to use it this week. I went through a couple different sets with this as well, and ultimately settled on U-Turn, Swords Dance, Brave Bird, and Shadow Sneak. I had banned it for a long time because the most of the time this thing wants to come in and click U-Turn. But the big thing that Swords Dance allows me to do is check what you're switching to this is. I think Poltergeist would be better than Shadow Sneak, except that my opponent has a Gengar, and I can't beat it if I don't have Sneak. So I decided U-Turn is really good because the first couple times this thing comes in, I don't know whether you're going to go Melmetal, I don't know whether you're going to go Druddigon, I don't know whether you're going to go into Thundy. Like, you've got a bunch of different Beware is another possible option to covering this. So there's a few different possible options for that. Once I know what your switching is and this thing is ready to go late game, I can just click Swords Dance, and then Brave Bird should be able to pick off a lot of the weakened threats, and then Shadow Sneak should be able to do the rest. Obviously, Melmetal is a huge pain because I don't have Poltergeist, but Melmetal it doesn't beat the rest of my roster, so I'm hoping that just having the pressure, and if Melmetal is the switch into this, and I'm just clicking U-Turn and going into anything else that can cover it, then I'm fine with that. And I really don't think I would set up a Swords Dance if the Melmetal's not in range. And so I decided to go with the Swords Dance over the Band this week and just put leftovers on it. The reason for that is that it makes Life Orb not modest Reuniclus Psychic a 3-hit KO instead of a 2-hit KO. If it goes Psyshock, obviously I have a way weaker physical defense, and if it is modest, then it is still a 2-hit KO, but it's good to check for, and maybe gives me just another possible answer to Reuniclus, which is another mon that hits really, really hard in this matchup. Speaking of what I'm going to U-turn into on the Melmetal, we do have an Assault Vested Torkoal as well. This thing handles the Thundurus a little bit better with the Assault Vest. I really did want to run the Stealth Rock this week, but I wasn't taking hits if I don't run AV, and I decided Spin is nice. Slurpuff's got webs, that's annoying. Druddigon could go for a Stealth Rock, and so Spin is nice. Lava Plume getting a burn on a couple different things would be super nice. Things like the Druddigon do not appreciate a burn. Poliwrath that can potentially switch into this doesn't appreciate a burn. Now, the reason I think it's not going to be modest for Reuniclus is because I think it's going to be especially defensive for Reuniclus, and Lava Plume's not really doing much of anything, and I really did think about trying to put on something for the Reuniclus here, maybe Roar or something like that, but decided I have Clear Smog, so I'm not just straight setup fodder. Eventually you'll have to kill me, or I'll get a chance to switch out. And Clear Smog is slowly doing damage. I mean, it's, little damage. It's probably going to recover at some point, but if I can figure out when it's going to recover, and then I can go out into something else, then I can get the momentum there. Now, this is Sun. It's named Sun, but also it is a drought set, and that is for one very specific purpose, and that is that I do once again have a Solar Power Heliolisk, because this thing goes ballistic on my opponent's roster, especially if the Gengar goes down, but unfortunately, the Rillaboom will always force me out. That said, I am running Throat Spray Hyper Voice in order to force the Rillaboom to come in that situation. Now, Grassy Glide does kill me. The big thing is that Rillaboom cannot click U-Turn. That Rillaboom cannot click High Horsepower. That Rillaboom can do nothing other than Grassy Glide, and that is exploitable. It can't click Knockoff. It can't click High Horsepower because I would outspeed it, and I can Weather Ball it and kill it, especially in Sun, and if I'm at +1, then Hyper Voice can do the same. And so I figured running the Throat Spray Hyper Voice does two things. It forces the Rillaboom to come in and forces the Rillaboom to do what I want. It also ensures that I'm able to get some meaningful KOs, such as specially defensive Thundurus T. Not like fully specially defensive with an Assault Vest. That would be nuts, and I can't 2-hit KO that, but moderately specially defensive Thundurus T or Assault Vested with no special defense investment. Hyper Voice into +1 Hyper Voice does kill. Weather Ball can just annihilate things in Sun. Beware, not a switch into this if the Sun is up. Certainly not. I mean, that thing, Fluffy just makes that thing just die to a Weather Ball. Reuniclus could come in. Dark Pulse is doing about 70% without the Hyper Voice boost. If I get the Hyper Voice boost, it's killing the Reuniclus with Dark Pulse. Melmetal doesn't want to take a Hyper Voice into a +1 Volt Switch. If the weather's not up, if the Sun is up, then Weather Ball just kills the Melmetal. So this thing does so much work, and it does so much work when it is Solar Power boosted, and I don't know if Throat Spray is the optimal item. I couldn't think of a better item, and I think Throat Spray had a lot of upside, but I do always acknowledge the fact that Rillaboom just switches in and is able to click Grassy Glide. But I have Torkoal, that can come in on a Grassy Glide, reset up Sun, and then I can pivot around the Rillaboom, or I can take advantage of the fact that I know it has to click Grassy Glide, or if I'm in a situation to, I can just sack this thing off and go out into something else safely. But I do want this getting a lot of work done before I have to sack it off. Additionally, after 2 rounds of Sun, Gengar doesn't kill me with a Sludge Wave. That's huge. Gengar will kill me if it's Life Orb. It will also kill me with a Focus Blast. But I don't know if he has room to run Focus Blast unless he's running Scarf Gengar, at which point that might be exploitable in and of itself. But I think the scarier Gengar set is Nasty Plot. And if it is Nasty Plot, then I think it runs Dual Stab Thunderbolt and not Dual Stab Focus Blast. Because if it is Nasty Plotted, obviously it kills me anyway, so there's no real reason for him to be like, yeah, I need Focus Blast because Sludge Wave would do the job. But I can't let the Gengar get that Nasty Plot, which is why my whole team is based around this momentum aspect where it's like, Gengar never gets in and gets comfortable. Melmetal never gets in and gets comfortable. Druddigon never gets in and gets comfortable. Slurpuff never gets in and gets comfortable. Everything is just tough. I'm always pressuring. I'm always pushing my opponent to make sure that I am ready to go doing the switches I need to. So next up, of course, we have a Alolan Persian because I need another Gengar switch in. I need another Reuniclus switch in. We have Taunt, Parting Shot, Dark Pulse, and Burning Jealousy. I had a few different options here for what I wanted to run on this set, but I figured the Burning Jealousy actually does one thing and does one thing really, really well, and that's potentially catches the Slurpuff trying to do something cheeky. Now, I am fast enough to outspeed the Slurpuff prior to Unburden, but if the situation arises where they're at like 75% on the Slurpuff, but it's already popped its Citrus Berry and it has Unburdened and they're about to click Belly Drum to try to like beat me, you know, I can click Burning Jealousy and just burn it and not die. That said, it's also just good coverage for things like the Melmetal, catches things like Gengar and Nasty Claw Thundurus a little bit better, or Swords Dance Rillaboom, trying to do something cheeky there. Taunt helps me stop the Reuniclus from setting up, helps stop the Druddigon from setting up rocks if it comes in on this, helps stop a non-already belly drummed Slurpuff from belly drumming, although, yeah, you can taunt a Slurpuff. Sorry, I got it confused with Roamtease for a second there, and if it had Unburden and also was untauntable, that would be a problem. Stops the Claydol from setting up rocks, stuff like that. And of course, Parting Shot does exactly what my team wants to be doing, which is get out and gets into the matchup that I'm looking for. And then Dark Pulse, I wanted knockoff, but I didn't want to sacrifice any special attack on this, since I either would have had to sacrifice bulk or either physical or special attack, and I wasn't sure which I wanted, so I decided to run Dark Pulse instead. I'm not even sure that's the right play, but being fully special seemed to make sense to me at the time. That way I can just go minus attack nature and not have to worry about it. But mostly this thing is here to click Parting Shot, outspeed the Gengar, and maybe Dark Pulse that if needed. And again, this is another reason where I don't think he'd run Focus Blast, because this thing would die to a +2 Sludge Wave. So I don't see why you would need Focus Blast on the set, but again, I do have a lot of fighting weaknesses, so it is possible that the Gengar would run Focus Blast. I'm not sure. Either way, my goal is to make sure that I am pivoting, and then when the game is ready to be in the situation where this takes over, this Zygarde comes in, clicks Dragon Dance one time, eats a hit. This thing lives an Icy Wind from a Gengar. This thing lives an Ice Beam from a Claydol. This thing lives a non-belly drummed Slurpuff Play Rough. It lives an Ice Punch from Beware. It lives an Outrage from a Druddigon. This thing lives any hit, any single hit that they can throw at it, it lives. And then Weakness Policy, Dragon Dance, game's over. That's the goal. Now, there's a lot of things that can slow that down. In a late game situation where Rillaboom is at 100%, if I Dragon Dance and they Swords Dance on that turn, then I potentially lose because that they can 2 KO me. If I choose not to Dragon Dance, depending on what the mons that are left, I can just straight Outrage and potentially 2 KO the Rillaboom, and then they don't outrace me. So it's like a 50-50 there, depending on whether they have Swords Dance or not. So I'll try to get some calcs early to figure out if I can determine if it is Bandit or anything, but we'll see. But I'm living hits from any mon that wants to go for them. If I can get the Weakness Policy off, it might just be GG. This is a finisher, but I will be a little bit aggressive to try to, when I find a situation that I'm like, this could work, I'm just going to try to do it. And if it doesn't work, then I just have to go back to the drawing board and use the rest of my mons and keep pivoting, find another win con. Or I'll use this early, get off 1,000 arrows, not like set up with it, or an extreme speed where I need to, slurp buffs at low health. I'll just extreme speed. I'm not going to not use it because I only want it to be a finisher, but when it hits the field, I should be ready to win the game. Or I should know that I'm not setting up with it right now and that I will bring it back in later. Because again, this thing hitting the field does allow entry for certain mons, like Reuniclus, like potentially the Gengar if I don't get up a Dragon Dance, that can then force me out. So that is definitely a concern of mine. Icy Wind, especially on the Gengar, is tough because Dragon Dance obviously doesn't offset the loss of speed. So if Gengar is specifically the mon that I'm facing down, I might just 1,000 arrows. If they Icy Wind, I live, I 1,000 arrows, I kill, and then I just extreme speed from +2, depending on how that, how everything works out. It's not a lot of attack investment, so there are things that can live at +1, but I think this is a bulky enough set that I can be able to reliably get the weakness policy off, and then be at +3, and then things can't live. So that's the team this week. Hopefully you guys are excited because this is pretty much do or die. I don't think I'm officially eliminated if I lose, but it's going to make it really, really hard, and I'll need other people to be losing. Like, this might be do or die for me to have any control over my own destiny where it doesn't feel like I need like a really specific set of circumstances to get into playoffs. So I got to get this win. Hopefully you guys are excited. I know I am. It's been a fun season no matter what happens here. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys all back here tomorrow with that battle. Take care, everybody.